Hello folks, welcome back for a second round of Onshape. If you're using Fusion 360, there should already be two videos in Canvas for you. This one is for the folks that are using Onshape and just starting out with that, including myself. I've had to record this a few times because I keep running into stuff. I'm like, well, I want to do this. All right, so I'm going to make a new document on the phone stand and go ahead and create that. Now, my suggestion would be to either print out or have on your phone or whatever. In files, I have already here a complete dimension drawing of the phone stand. And why would I do that? Well, because there's a lot of measurements in this one, unlike the key fob of like 50 and 20, 4 millimeter, 2 millimeter. There's a lot going on here. Not crazy, but rather than trying to memorize it all or write it down or follow along in the video, you can just work on it here and have all your dimensions ready for you. So have it on a separate sheet of paper or wherever as you're working on this. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to do a sketch. I'm going to do it on the front plane this time rather than the top. We're going to be taking these files to the laser cutter, so it really doesn't need to lay on one plane or the other. But I am going to be making two of them. Let me pull that up here. Well, you saw it already. There's going to be two items. There's going to be this back plate here, and then there's going to be this legs plate that slots into it, both made out of acrylic, and we'll take them to the laser cutter if you want and cut them out, but everyone will need to make it. All right, so I got my sketch. I'm going to go normal to my faces and then P to get rid of the rest of the planes, and just going to start off with a center point rectangle. So looking at my dimension drawing, it's going to be 70 millimeters wide, and changing it up here a little bit, I'm going to make this 6 inches, so 6 IN, and it will automatically scale for me, or convert, I guess I should say, those measurements to millimeters, 152.4. All right, in the key fob, we did a fillet on a solid. This case, we're actually going to do this. You can do it on the solid, but I'll show you a sketch fillet. So this is Shift F, and I'm going to select two sides, so the left side and the top here, and the radius is going to be 10. You can adjust that in or out, but I want it to be 10. Click there, put in 10, I guess double click, put in 10, and hit enter. Same thing here. Once I put in 110, then it already knows to start doing the rest of them that way, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to do all the edges that way, or all the corners that way. All right. While I have it here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to make some feet, or actually cut out so that there's feet that remain. And that is going to be from a 3-point arc, or the A key. I'm going to start on this left fillet end and go to the right. And then you can pull this up or down as much as you want. I'm going to click and then put in 35 as the radius for that. So this is what it'll sit on when it's standing up. It'll be like kind of these points here. All right. So that is the rough shape of it. Now the last thing I need to do is put in 3 slots here that the leg plate will slot into, and then hold it at a 90-degree angle to each other and hold the phone up. So I'm going to go to line here and draw just a horizontal line from one side to the other. If you make it at a slant and then kind of bring it down, you'll see it'll snap into place perpendicular. Hit escape to get out of there. Now you may notice, and I'll point this out, all of the sketch is black except for that line. What's happening here is the sketch is what's called constrained, or most of the sketch is fully constrained, where there's no options. Like, there's no other way for this sketch to be made that has a height of 152.4, 70 for a width, these radiuses, this radius, all of that is constraining it to be exactly what it is. However, this line has to go from this point to this point. That's what I clicked on, but I have not told it where to be this way. So that is the last thing I need to dimension. So I'm going to hit the D key for dimension, go from this top here. It thinks I want to dimension that top, but actually I want to then click that second one and then put in a value here. I'm going back to freedom units again, or the imperial units, whatever you want to call it, and go with 5 inches in that case. Now, this line is a solid line, obviously. But if I kept this as it is, this would cause problems with the laser cutter. It would cut out, cut here, and then just cut right across the whole phone case or phone face, phone holder face, and then cut this in half. I do not want that. So what I'm going to do, hit escape to get out of dimension. I'm going to click on that face and then go up here and change it from a solid line to a construction line. And if you'll notice here, it changes it into a dotted line. That is saying this is my reference line. I can use it, but the laser cutter or even extrusions or anything will not recognize that. It's just kind of there for our purposes. All right, so now we need to cut our 3 slots. Let me go back here. We're going to cut these 3 slots out here that the legs will slot into. All right, so that is going to be a corner rectangle. I'm going to hover over that construction line. It lights up, and then I'm going to pull out and dimension this. Now this is going to be 10, and here's where we get into a little bit of vagaries. Every piece of acrylic is slightly different. So if we cut these to, let's say, too much, like 3.5, for instance, then the other piece will be floppy and won't fit in. It'll fit in, but it'll be too loose and won't stand up. If I cut it too thin, the slotting in piece won't fit at all. So what do? Well, even if I know exactly what my acrylic is, let's say 3, and I put it in there. Let me move that out of the way so you can see it. Move that down. If I put 3 in and that acrylic is exactly 3, if I buy another set of acrylic and there happens to be 2.85, I would have to go back in and put 2.85 here and here and here and here, a lot of different places. So there's a chance, a very good chance, that that dimension is going to change depending on my work. So what I'm actually going to do is create what's called a variable. So a variable or a parameter, because it's called parametric CAD, is where you can set a dimension to be something that might change. And the way to do that in Onshape is instead of 3 millimeters, I'm going to hit the pound sign, and you'll see it says new variable here. I'm going to click it. I need to give it a length, so I'm going to call that thickness, because depending on the thickness of the acrylic, it could change. And I'm going to put in 2.85 because the acrylic we have right now is roughly 2.85. It seems when the laser cuts something like that, it seems to work good for that number. And then hit enter. So you notice a change from 3 to 2.85. All right, let's do another corner rectangle here. Same story, 10. Now, you might be tempted, and I was tempted, to hit now the pound key and put in the variable. However, Onshape does not believe that's what we should be doing. So I actually have to, it's a very poor workflow, but now I've had a discussion with Onshape about it, but you know, they really don't care what Tom Lum thinks. So I put in a number and then I delete it and then I hit it, the pound key, and then I'm allowed to click on thickness. If I don't do that, I'll show you what happens here. Let's say I put in 10, and if I do the pound key right now, it actually switches the view of my sketch to a side sketch. Just, that's awesome. So Onshape was not a fan of me asking why they did that, but here we are. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to dimension. Oh, hit escape. D for dimension. I'm going to dimension this, and then they said, oh no, that's not the intended workflow. You should put in a number and then delete it, or just click OK and then put the number or the variable in later. I was not agreeing, but you know, it doesn't matter. All right, so last thing we need to do is dimension these. Notice they are blue a little bit. The black, that's black here because it's locked into that construction line, and I told it 2.85, but I can move it left or right. So I need to dimension these so they are correctly in the right place. Well, if you do a little math here, that's 10, 10, and 10, that's 30. This is total of 70, and I have 4 spaces. So 70 minus 30 is 40. Divided by 4 gives me 10. So I'm going to dimension each of these to 10. So from here to here is going to be 10. And then from here to here is going to be 10. And then from here to here is also going to be 10. Now that could also be done with a variable. Totally fine. I just thought one variable for today was enough, but entirely up to you. All right. So now you'll notice all of those are black. So that is fully constrained sketch. Now, lastly, I do have on in the files a logo here. I'm going to make a separate video for that. Otherwise, it'll add 10 more minutes to this video, and nobody wants that. All right, so all done with my sketch there. I'm going to click OK. And now we have our fully constrained back of our phone stand. I do need to bring this out into the third dimension. So I'm going to click Extrude, click that surface. And yet again, Onshape thinks everything should be extruded to 25 millimeter. I, however, am going to use that variable one more time because remember, it's the thickness of the acrylic, and that's what this is going to be. So I'm going to put that variable by hitting the pound key and then clicking thickness, and then we are good. So I click OK, and there is my back. All right. So that is my first part, and then we'll get into it a little bit later, but we will use that part, or actually we will actually export a DXF of that, and we'll get into DXF here in a minute. All right, so now I need those legs that are popping through. So I'm going to make a plane. We haven't done that before. Click plane here, and I'm going to do an offset plane to, I'm going to zoom in. I'm just going to do it to one of the bottoms of these slots. Just click that one. And now it thinks I want to dimension or offset it to 25, but actually I want to offset it to 0. So I want to offset essentially nothing. I just want a work plane right on that surface. Click OK. And now you'll see if you zoom in a little bit, it says plane 1 there. I'm going to do a sketch on that plane. Now I'm able to sometimes click on this, but sometimes I've had very bad luck doing that. So you can actually right click something close to it and then say select other. And then it'll give you a list of all things that were kind of near your cursor and allows you to pick what you want here. In this case, I want plane 1. So I'm going to do a sketch on that plane. Again, I'm going to hit normal. I'm actually going to zoom out a little bit more and kind of turn it a little bit. And what I want to do is I want to sketch essentially a rectangle that's 90 degrees normal to that. So I want to pick up these edges. So what I'm going to do is click the Use or U key. That's right here for Use. And that will allow me to say, hey, I'm interested in this shape in my sketch. I want some part of it. So I click it. Now it says some of the face edges could not be used, and that's okay. I really just want that corner there and this corner here. All right. Now I'm going to do a corner rectangle, start right here at this corner, pull it out to there, and then pull up. You'll notice it'll kind of lock into place. Sometimes it does it well, sometimes it won't. It says 70. I am going to type in 70, and then it turns red, and I do not know why, and it says sketch could not be solved. I've seen this a few times. I don't know if it's a bug. So I am going to exit out here for a second, and I'll show you what I've been doing to work around it. Sketch again. And again, now notice I can't really select that plane, so I right-click, select other, and then I'm going to do plane 1. U key to use, and I'm going to select just here, maybe this whole thing. And now I'm actually going to pick up that corner again, but I'm going to go past it this time. All right. So I don't know why, but it seems like it's happier with that. I'm going to actually exit out. And now I will dimension it. So I'm going to dimension this from here to here needs to be 70. And then from this edge to this edge needs to be 60. So to be fair, I probably should have used a constraint here. So that way, if I ever change the width of my phone stand, it would change this with it. But didn't want to get into all of that today. All right, so that's it. All right, I'm going to click OK. and I'm going to extrude this and bring it in this direction. But notice it's red here. I actually want a new surface. This will make a new set of legs. And that thickness, or excuse me, the depth that we want is actually the thickness, again, of the acrylic. I'll click OK and be done with it. So there is my second part. Now notice it doesn't stick through yet or anything like that, but that's where I want to go. All right, now I'm going to turn this a little bit here. So what I want to do next is kind of select these rectangles that are hiding in here. Notice I really can't get to them, or it's not letting me just do one. It's doing the whole face. Let me turn this part off a second. I want to just get to those three rectangles that are there that part one is kind of showing, but I need to make a sketch in order to make that happen. So I'm going to do a sketch. Again, now this time I'm allowed, like it's picking up that edge or that, the edge of that acrylic. I'm going to click that. And again, I'm going to use the use key. So I'm going to turn this around here, hit U, and I'm going to select the back of that face plate or the back plate. And that should be it. So now notice it is picking those up a little bit. I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to extrude and right click, select other. And I don't want the face, I don't want that, I don't want that. Oh, it's not letting me pick that up. All right, let's go back here. No extrude. I'll go back to my sketch and edit. And although I thought it would pick all of that up, I'm going to use the use key again, and I'm going to select all of these edges. So there's those three. I'm going to select these three edges. I'm going to select these three edges. Looks like you picked all of them up, that one. And then these three edges. All right. So now maybe I'll be able to pick them up. So extrude this one and this one. Yep, that's what I want. Notice they are different colors. And somebody in lab asked, like, hey, it's different colors. That's okay. What we're going to do here is we want to extrude these approximately 20 millimeter. But we are going to do add. And we want to add them to this back piece. So it'll kind of weld them together. So I click here, it said merge scope, and I just click that back. And that allows me to add those together and click OK. Now you might say, well, why didn't I bring that middle one? Well, the middle one is typically where your charge port is, at least for the next year or two, until Apple decides that you don't deserve a wire to charge things and you have to do everything Qi charging. So until then, though, we are going to bring that sketch back up. Let me show it again. Hit extrude, and I'm going to grab that and extrude it, but I don't want it sticking out past. So what I'm going to say is I want to add it, merge scope. I'm adding it to this back plane here. And then instead of depth, I go from blind here to up to face. And I say bring it up to this face here. And that will just bring it right up to that face, and I'll move that, turn it off a second, you can see it. It brings it up to that face and stops, so I have something like that. All right. All right, last thing for this, at least for the front part, I'm going to fillet these just a little bit to make it easier to insert them through there. You notice, well, that was a lot of fillet. That is true. Let's go with more like a 1 millimeter fillet. That's not enough, maybe 2 millimeter. That looks good. All right, and then I'll do the same thing here and here. Click OK. That middle one's not going to really be filleted because if I fillet it, it will won't be holding on to much of anything. All right, last step. Let's work on this back here. So I'm going to fillet back here. Remember the radius on that other one was 10. Same thing here. I'm going to do a 10 radius on this one. And that'll work. Same thing again with, I could cut this out. I'm going to actually cut this out, make a sketch here of this plane, normalize it, and then I'm going to make an arc, just like we did on that first one. Turn this a little so I can see it. I'm going to go from here to here, go in this direction. It was 35 on the other one. Good with that. And then last thing is, I'm going to cut a hole here just to kind of give it some visually interesting look to it. So I'm going to grab a line first, and I can change that line to a construction line right there. Go from here to here, escape, and then make a circle. I want to lock it in on the center there, and then maybe like 30 or so. That looks good. All right. So that would be it. Finish that sketch, and then I'm just going to extrude. I'm going to turn that sketch on, I guess. I have it. There we go. Extrude these, and I don't want to add, I want to remove. Click OK, and that'll give me kind of an interesting back to it. As I said before, we already run 20 minutes here. I'll have another video of how to add a logo if you want to, but it's not that difficult. All right, so last thing, what files do I need? The laser cutter does not use STL files. It uses DXF files. So I'm going to go right-click on Part 1 and click Export. And then a lot of different ones. Oh, it's not the part I want. It's actually the sketch here. So where is it? Create drawing, make transparent. No. Hang on a second. All right. Forgot it's in Fusion. It's the part here. It's just going to be the face. I click on the face, right click, and then export as a DXF file. That's what I want, DXF. I'm going to call this lum back. Oh, helps if I spell. Version 14, I guess. I don't know. Options, download. Yep, and then export that to my desktop. And then same thing again, turn this around, click on this face, right click, hang on, let me escape there. I think I had both things selected. Click on this face. Yep, I think I had both. I couldn't do a DXF with two perpendiculars. All right, so this is going to be lum legs, export, and then save that there as well. So those are the two files we'll turn in, your back and your legs, and then they can be brought into the laser cutter software and cut right out. It takes probably about 3 minutes, way faster than 3D printing something like this. This would take a couple hours, or at least an hour or two to 3D print it. So a lot faster for laser cutting. All right, if you have any questions, stop over to Evans 127. Be glad to help out, and I will see you in class.